Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to the final season simulation of the Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft Glory franchise mode. So in last episode we had our final off season, and this is probably the final season of the entire 25 years, and it's very nerve-wracking in a sense because obviously if we do not make the playoffs, this is the last time we are going to be simulating with this team. And obviously then the next episode would be the last episode, but if we do make the playoffs, obviously that series could last a little bit longer. But who knows what is in store for this team. Obviously a lot of guys are dropping off due to age. We do have a lot of younger guys also kind of weaning into our lineup, so it's a very interesting looking team this year. But you can see Parrott is technically our worst overall forward. Also Hartnell's been dropping off quite a bit. Derek Keith example as well. Darby's been dropping off. On defense, Danner's been dropping, so it's a lot of dropping, and hopefully it isn't enough that's going to make us lose and not make the playoffs. We might also give a chance to Fitzgerald, who's one of our fringe starter prospects, as the backup this year over Hayden. We might just kind of alternate between the two of them. Kind of get some of those younger guys in just to see if that helps our team out if we are struggling. But yeah, I really hope that this team can make the playoffs for one last time. I think we should be able to, because as long as Parrott's able to consistently still score goals, Hartnell's able to score, Darby maybe score some goals, Vico scoring like 30, 40 goals would be helpful as well. I think we could definitely make the playoffs, but obviously this team doesn't really have much of a window to do so. But anyways, before we get into simulating the last season and seeing if we actually do make the playoffs, I do have a couple comments to go over. So the first one is from Michael Dost, who says, I vote Eastern Conference and in Hartford or Milwaukee, because I was asking in the last episode, where should we have like a Draft to Glory franchise mode for next year? Because I want to do Draft to Glories almost every season. I asked where you guys wanted me to. Michael was saying in the Eastern Conference for Hartford or Milwaukee. But Saturn Otaku replied to him and said Wisconsin would be still in the Western Conference. He also did Hartford throwback mode, so so it should be someplace different next time. So that is true. I don't think I will be doing a Hartford Draft to Glory just because of the fact I did a Whalers series last year. I think it was. I can't even remember. I think it was last year for like only a couple weeks or whatever it was, right at the end of NHL 22, I guess. I think it was then. So I don't think Hartford, Milwaukee could potentially do, or anywhere in Wisconsin, I guess. So there's that. And then we got a couple comments from Saturn Otaku himself, who says, for the next Draft to Glory, you should put the team in the Eastern Conference and in Canada, someplace like Quebec City, Hamilton, or London. I said, or even Halifax could be cool, and he's like, sure, or even St. John's if you really want to push it out. Kind of like Anchorage, except the opposite side of the continent. So yeah, we could easily go to like Maritimes, Canada. We could even go to Quebec City potentially, but I don't really like Quebec City as a destination for hockey, so it's kind of weird. Hamilton and London, I feel like, are too small of places. So I think it would be more so like Halifax or St. John's or something like that, because I think Halifax having a team would be great, because I know there is a lot of hockey fans in Halifax that go to Mooseheads games all the time. So I think Halifax would be definitely a cool spot, but obviously I'll look a little bit more into this during once we get into NHL 24 and what I actually want to do, because I need to come up with like a team name, a concept, all that type of thing. And then the last and final comment is from Hockey Guy 88, who says, so who is the oldest player in the league in this last season? Also, I'd like to see the next Draft to Glory team play in Omaha. So he kind of wants to go more central United States for the team. So we could do that as well. So central, more out east. It depends on what you guys want me to do. So like Omaha, Wisconsin, we were just talking about stuff like that. Or out east with like Halifax, St. John's, that type of idea. But anyways, let's see how old the oldest player is in the league for Hockey Guy, because might as well. Also, we will be able to check and see if there's any former players that are still playing, because we're going to be looking for the oldest player available. So let's just go, let's go like 36 and older. That should be able to help us find the oldest player available. So who is the oldest player in the NHL at this point? It is Casey Dawes is still playing. Wow, okay. This is the guy that was drafted, I believe, shortly before Jorgensen, I think. Yeah, I think this is the guy that was drafted first overall before Jorgensen in the year one draft. Yeah, see? 2022 first rounder, first overall. This guy, I didn't realize he was still playing. He has been playing in the NHL too, even though he's dropped down a lot, but he looks like his last season he might be in the AHL. This guy almost has 2,000 points. Holy crap. He's almost a point per game in his career, and he's played almost 2,000 games. Wow. And his playoff numbers are also really good too. Has he won any Stanley Cups? He looks like he won one. Yeah, he definitely won one there in 2030 with 38 points. So he is the oldest guy in this franchise mode. So Parrott is not the oldest. Parrott is very close to being the oldest, though. Melvin Lowry is still playing as well. He is 40. I remember him from, that draft. I think that might have been... Yeah, that was the year before Parrott went first overall. So a lot of old guys. Also, Boris Zikov is still playing, our former defenseman. He's 38 now at this point. He's in Buffalo, but he is still listed as a top 4, so... But potentially he would be a retirement in this offseason. I don't think we're going to be able to see the retirements this offseason, which kind of sucks, but oh well. But yeah, we have a lot of the older guys in the league, which is kind of funny. And a lot of them are guys that we drafted. Like Esicoli Minon's up there at 36. Who is the oldest goaltender, out of curiosity? Oldest goaltender is a 38-year-old in Barnaby. I don't think I remember this guy at all. 6th rounder by the LA Kings. Did he ever play an NHL game? He did. He played 350 games. So he's the oldest goaltender. There's a couple other 38-year-olds in Sexsmith and Wilm. Any former goalies of ours up there? I don't think so, right? Yeah, none. So those are the oldest guys in the league. Some of them are still in the NHL, like Komachi, who's 36. And then, who's the oldest NHL active player? It's Melvin Lowry. And then it's Parrott and such like that. But the oldest that is still playing is Cyrus Dawes. So anyways, that is that. So let's get into this final season simulation and see what this team could do, because I honestly have no idea if this team's a playoff team for sure or not. I really hope that we can make it back to the playoffs, but if not, so be it. This episode will basically just simulate the regular season. We'll take a look at our player stats, not through their careers yet. We'll take a look at their stats from the season only, and we'll wrap up the season at that point. But, next episode, if we miss the playoffs, like I said, will be the finale, where we're going to just basically go through the entire record book. We're going to look through everybody's career stats. We're going to see who ends up winning the Stanley Cup in the last season, that type of thing. And, if there's anything you wanted to take a look at in the final episode in specific, let me know. Because, I don't know if this is going to be the last, technically, sim episode or not, so... Let's see how we do in the preseason, and then we'll make sure our lines are good and ready to go as well, just because I want to make sure that we're getting the best out of this team as possible. Because it would be nice to get one last Stanley Cup in the last year, but not holding my breath. We had a really good preseason, 7-1. Who led us in points? Lee Gamble. That's interesting. Not really who I had in mind, but okay. Let's go to regular season and make sure the lineup is set. The depth guys, like I said, I might just randomly throw in if we're struggling. Because, I might throw Fitzgerald in over Hayden, for example. How was Hayden's preseason, or did he even play any games? He was 2-0 with a 945. Damn. That's pretty good. So, Fitzgerald might get a chance this year. St. Jacques might get a chance to throw in, and Loins is kind of the guy we could just throw in if a 79's not performing. Like Theodore Schultz, for example, he's getting his first taste of NHL action this season, so... excited to see what he could do at the NHL level, but I think we're ready to go. Even though Gamble's technically not a center, he has the best face-offs out of the bunch on this line, so that's why he is playing the center ice role this season. I think our defensive core is a little bit weak, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Hopefully that -1 doesn't hurt us a little bit, but let's see what happens. We'll do them 1 month at a time, just because, like I said, I want to take it a little bit slower since this is the last season. And hopefully Parrott somehow manages to have another 40-goal season at this point, even though he's dropped down to a 78. We start off the season with a win and a loss. Kind of back and forth between wins and losses so far here early on. There's a nice little winning streak now coming. 4 games in a row. 5, and a loss to the Boston Bruins, and a win over Colorado. So 8-3 in our first month. That's actually really good. That's a lot better of a start than I expected. And Darby's over point per game, which is not something that happens really that often. So that's really good to see him producing. And we are currently the best team in the entire NHL at this point. Let's let's keep on going. See if this team can continue on that path. If this team continues doing what they're doing right now, we might win a President's Trophy in the last season and then just get knocked out in round 1, knowing my luck. But let's see. Okay, we're cruising right now. Don't know what it is that it's making us win so much, but we are absolutely killing it here early on in the season. There's a couple losses in a row. One of them 10-2 to Rangers, which is not great, but we still don't have a lot of losses to start this season. Wow, 19-5. I did not expect us to be this good. We are 4 points up on the Blues for the best team in the NHL. We're 10 points up on the Kraken in our division. Jeez. And look at how tight the rest of our division is. We're like running away with our division. The rest of our division is separated by 4 points. That's actually kind of outrageous. That's kind of outrageous. And Darby's still over point per game. So Ted Darby having a great last season potentially. That's good to see. Let's go another month or so and see if we're still on that winning path. Hopefully we don't just randomly fall off, because obviously that would suck a lot. We're trying to make the playoffs obviously for this last year. A little bit more losses this month, but we're still winning a lot more games, which is great. Yeah, at this rate we're definitely a playoff team. 25-8-1. Yeah, look at that. 27-8-2. Holy crap. 56 points. That still has us as the best team in the league. Didn't really expect to be the best team in the league this season. And Danner is over point per game as a defenseman. Is Danner going to win a Norris in the last season? Like, I don't remember if we could see the award winners in the last season or not. Because if not, we might have still a Norris winner regardless. We'll probably make our own assumptions on who would win what based on player stats once we get to that point. But, wow. This team is doing really well offensively for having players that are over point per game, especially the defenseman and Danner. I get that Danner's dropping off a lot, but he's having a career year in like one of his last NHL seasons, it seems like. Like we're 7-1-2 in our last 10 games. Well, this is exactly what I wanted to have happen in a sense, but I don't want to win a President's Trophy though too, because we win a President's Trophy, I feel like this team might just all of a sudden show its true colors and lose in round 1, which would not be ideal, but I mean, at least it would still be playoffs in the last season, right? So there's 3 straight losses, one of them in a shootout. 4 straight losses. There's a win though. A little bit of a scare there, but still doing really well, because we do have a lot of extra frame losses too. 4 extra frame losses, so at least those are points in those. 33-14-4. We are now 2 points up on the Blues for the best team in the NHL. Hopefully the Blues pass us, to be honest. And now everybody's under point per game. So now our offense is starting to decline a little bit, but maybe the depth scoring is still really good on this team. Because if the depth scoring is good, at least that's not too problematic having under point per game players. I'm curious on to where Parrott is in terms of points, though. Because if Darby is leading the team in points with only 48, that means Parrott might not be scoring too much here. But, I mean, I don't really care if he's scoring too much, but I obviously want him to have a great last year of his career. But it is what it is. Let's continue simulating, see if we can continue winning some games, and hopefully we can get players back over point per game if we want to. Let's go to the day before the deadline. Not that we're making trades, obviously, because this is still a draft to glory. And I always will abide by those rules of not making any trades, as Carolina has fired their head coach. There's 4 straight wins, 5 straight wins, and then we lose to Minnesota and lose to Dallas. Losing a couple games this month, but still winning a lot of games. And there's 3 straight losses, so 40-20-4. So we're definitely falling off a bit from first place in the league, I think, right? No, we are still first place in the league. Damn, the Blues fell off as well. The Preds are only 2 points back of us, and same with the Flyers. The Flyers are always really good. So we're still in President's Trophy territory. Danner's now leading the team in points with 58 points in 64 games. I don't think I've ever saw a day where this team would have a defenseman leading him in points. Because we always had forward. It wasn't like Houston back last year where we had Griffin leading the team in points a lot of years. Brian Danner has never led the team in points, obviously, so that's a bit interesting. I think for the rest of the season, I'm going to take out Hayden. I'm not going to take a look at his stats. I'm just going to take him out and give Fitzgerald an opportunity to get some games in for the rest of the season. That way we kind of know who's going to be the better of the goalies to go to for the playoffs, because we're more than likely a playoff team at this rate unless we have a historic collapse, because we only have like 18 games left, I think. Yeah, I think we only have like 18 games left, so the worst we could finish is 40-38. I don't think we have 18 straight regulation losses in us, though. So let's get the rest of the season simulated and see what happens. We'll go still a month at a time, though, just because I don't really want to rush through this last season. It's kind of sad that this series is coming to an end, though. I don't know if it's been my favorite series I've ever done or not, because it definitely has been one of my most successful series. Like, where does this series rank for you guys? I'm curious on that, like, in terms of your favorite series that I've done. Like, is Houston higher than this? Is Arizona higher than this? Chicago? Let me know, because I'm really curious on that. Let's go to the 20th. Take a little bit slower for this last full month. Yeah, we are definitely a playoff team, because we're not losing. We're trying to win a President's Trophy, it looks like, which is not great, but it is what it is. 46, 20, and 6. We're going to hit 50 wins likely to end the season. 50-win seasons are good, but is it what we want? I don't know. There's 3 straight regulation losses, 4 straight losses, and 2 wins. Okay. So we're kind of falling off a little bit, but we are still not the best team in the league anymore. We're only 1 point back of the Preds. Yikes. We did clinch a playoff spot, so that's good. I do not want to win the President's Trophy this year here, boys, because I know that is a curse. There's another loss, a win, and another win. We're at 107 points. The Preds are at 108. Okay, so we might just barely miss the President's Trophy. The most we could get is 109. The most the Preds could get is 110. And there's only one other team with 100 plus points, so we are definitely killing it this year. Our last game of the season is against a bad Detroit team, so can we win this last game of the season? Should I slow simulate the last game of the careers potentially for these guys? Danner's leading the team in points with 73 points. You know what? Let's slow simulate the last regular season game, because who knows? Maybe it's a milestone game, maybe not. I just want to see what happens with this team in the sim for the last time. Well, and other than playoffs, I should say. First period of the final regular season game. It's 2-2. Gamble and Leeson for us. Vitterell and Hoyle for them. Fitzgerald's in net, which is kind of interesting. Second period. 4-2 for us. Hartnell and Glencross. And looks like we're going to win our last game of the season as well. And obviously, if Nashville loses their last game, I think we would win the President's Trophy, or it would be a tiebreaker scenario. So it'd be really interesting to figure that out and see who ends up winning it. But yeah, we're going to win our last game of the season. Potentially, as Orr makes it 4-3. And that will be the final. So we win our last game of the season. 3 stars in the game: Leeson, Hartnell, and Gamble. It's crazy that this season is done now. But we've made the playoffs at least. So now is playoffs. Next episode starts the playoffs. But that is good. That means the series will extend a little bit longer. Depends on how far we get into the playoff race. But let's get the rest of the AI teams done with, which they should be soon. There we go. We finished with 109 points. The Preds finished with 110, so the Preds do win the President's Trophy. And we came second best in the NHL. The Central Division had 3 teams over 100 points. Our division only had one team, or not our division. Our team only did have one team with over 100 points in it. Only 3 teams make it in our division. Golden Knights and Oilers also made it. Damn. Flyers were the only team in their division with over 100 points, and nobody in the Atlantic had 100 points. Okay. How the mighty have fallen. Let's take a look at team stats and player stats. Wrap up this final regular season. We're obviously not going to take a look at players' career stats, like I said, because I want to take a look at that next, once this series is coming to an end, pretty much. So, entire league-wise, we were tied for the 4th best offensive team in the NHL. So even though we didn't have anybody that was point per game, we probably had really good depth scoring. Goals against per game wise, we were one of the best defensive teams in the league. We are like 8th, or tied for 8th, I should say. Just a little bit behind Vegas and also the Islanders, but the rest of those teams are way much better defensively than us. Power play percentage wise, we were one of the best power play teams, even though we were just under 20%. That's kind of a surprise. 19.8. And our penalty kill was really good this year as well. 4th best in the NHL, so a lot of good stats from our team. Hopefully they do good in the playoffs too. And we were one of the best in terms of scoring shorthanded goals as well. Really good on the road. Not as good on home ice, but still. We have made the playoffs for the final time. Let's take a look at player stats, see who did what for us, as well as around the league. Leeson had 69 points this year. That is pretty good. I don't want to take a look at his career stats. I almost did that. We'll leave that for another episode. Avery Parrott hit 45 goals in this season as a 40-year-old. 64 points is pretty low, but 45 goals is maybe one of his career bests. I don't think he ever hit 50 goals in his career, but I'm pretty sure this might be a career high almost for him at 40 years old, which is kind of funny. Has he dropped off? No, he hasn't. Okay, that's good. Ricardo Hartnell had 33 goals and 61 points. He is still dropping. Derek Keith had 57 points. That's kind of a surprise. He has dropped down to a 79, but he's still producing really well. So that center scoring, fantastic. Left wing wise, Darby 73 points, 36 goals from Ted Darby this year. I believe that's a career high or close to it. I don't know if he had ever had a 40-goal season. I feel like he might have. Bobkov 68 points, mostly assists, really good from him. Gamble had 53 points in 203 penalty minutes. Wow. This guy's a really intriguing player. Puts up points and also puts up penalty minutes. Vico 45 points, only 25 goals this year from Vico, which is kind of a surprise, but he might be dropping off a little bit. Jansevsky 23 points, not really that great, minus 10. But still, the depth scoring, very good. Very, very good. Glenn Cross 44 points, pretty solid. Lauren Moore 29 points. And the rookie, Theodore Schultz, came in and put up 28 points. Almost 15 goals too. So I do like that a lot. Very good offensive depth scoring. Defensively, Danner had 74 points. That's, I believe, a career high for him. He might win a Norris, depending on the plus-minus, I guess. Aldrich Kleppas had 27 points. It was a plus 22. Smith Pelly and House had 15 points. Butsayev had 10 points, plus 24. Pretty good defensively from him. And Tulipov had 7 assists and 12 points. He never scored a goal, though. Goalie-wise, Pusher was really solid. Hayden was pretty much the exact same type of numbers, 908 and a 279. Yeah, very identical numbers for the two of those guys. And Fitzgerald was not very good. So likely for the playoffs, we'll start Pusher and Hayden. If Hayden doesn't do well, obviously, if Pusher isn't doing well, we'll try Fitzgerald out. But right now, it looks like Fitzgerald is not going to be getting the starts in the playoffs for sure. So let's take a look at stats around the entire league. See who led the league in goals and all that stuff. William Raymond, so that's a franchise player that is, I believe, was drafted by the Habs. 110 points, leads the league this year. Cote up there also for the Flyers with 108. Bieksa for Boston, and Lukowicz up there as he normally is for the Flames. Even though the Flames missed the playoffs, I'm pretty sure, which is kind of crazy. Best goal scorer this season was Lukowicz with only 54 goals. So Parrott finished top 10 in goal scoring this season. Damn. So there is that. Let's take a look at some Selke candidates. So likely the Art Ross winner would be Raymond. Probably the Hart winner too. Who would be the Selke candidate this year? Avery Auld probably. Yeah, probably Avery Auld because that face-off percentage in a takeaway count. But also, this Joseph Dryden guy would be up there for sure, too, because of the face-offs and the takeaways. For fun, let's take a look at who had the most fights out of the forwards. It was Peckham in Carolina with 35. Gamble was up there for us with 31 fights. It's crazy that guy fights that much, and he puts up still 53 points. Damn. Defensively, the best defenseman for points was Danner. Best in terms of plus-minus, though, was Hutton, so it's likely going to go to Drew Hutton because this game loves plus-minus, so it's either him or Devin Lawrence or Nightingale. Wow, the Flyers had 2 defensemen up there in points. That's actually insane. And our former defenseman Jeffrey Bouwmeester's up there too. And Morgan Denny. But yeah, I don't think Danner's going to win it unless they give it to him because of the point total, but the plus-minus isn't as good for sure as those other guys, so I feel like Danner's going to get fleeced out of a Norris because of that, which is unfortunate. Best goaltender this season for wins was Tootin in Tampa Bay with 40 wins. Best save percentage by a starter was Ekblad in Minnesota with a .915. And best goals against average by a starter was like Rogalski and Pettinen with a .269. Nice. Any goalie goals in this last season? We rarely see them, and there was none this season. Most assists was Pettinen and Murley with 4 assists. Best rookie this season was Pelech in Anaheim with 72 points, 45 goals. Oh yeah, he was the franchise guy that just went first overall. Okay, that's why he was so good. Wow, the Ducks had 2 rookies up there in points. That's pretty impressive too. Huh. So there is the top rookies in the league this season. Any good rookie goalies for fun? Not really, looks like. Yeah, not really. I mean, Zinger was really solid, but he wasn't really the greatest either. I mean, he was good. He's an 86 overall, and he's a rookie, because I guess he never played before. That's interesting. So there is that, and I believe that's almost it for this episode. We just need to take a look at who we're facing in round 1, and that will be it. And then obviously next episode could potentially be the last episode before we get into the full-on recap type of thing. So we are going to be taking on Minnesota in round 1, and we've had some troubles, I'm pretty certain, with Minnesota in the last few years, unless that's my Chicago series that I'm thinking of. Let me take a look back through some video stuff. Yeah, it's mostly my Chicago series I've been having trouble with Minnesota. I don't know what this Minnesota team looks like. I can't remember who they have on their roster. But they were 41, 28, and 13, so they weren't super great. They might be a cheese team. Which is kind of scary. Let me take a look at how they did in terms of the standings, though, in terms of like goals for and all that. Because I want to do a little bit of a comparison first before we see their roster. So we finished with 109 points. They finished with 95 points. They had 258 goals. We had 280, so we're much better offensively. They were pretty close to us defensively. They only allowed 4 more goals. So they're actually a good defensive team, I guess. Their power play was worse by 2%, but still pretty close on power play percentage. Their penalty kill was also pretty strong at 85.3%, so they might be a good defensive team. But on the offensive front, they're probably not as good. I think they have a good goaltender, if I'm not mistaken, too, because I think we just literally saw that they have a good goaltender in the goalie stats, so that's likely why they're a good defensive team. But let's take a look and see what their roster looks like. So, top line of Nelson Bathgate, Leo Benock, and Eli Ferrario. How good did Buffalo do, or Minnesota do last year? Oh, he was in Calgary a few years ago. I wonder if we ever play this guy in the playoffs or not. If he was drafted by Buffalo, I feel like I recognize his name. Because we did win a Stanley Cup over Buffalo, so he might... Yeah, I think it's this season, 2038. Yeah, that might be it. That might be the year we won the Stanley Cup against Buffalo, right? I gotta definitely take a look at that. I think it is. Which means definitely we played him before in the Stanley Cup Finals. But, yeah, Benock is pretty solid. Bathgate's really good. 5th overall pick like 10 years ago. Second line, Bo Djordjevic, Dave Paul, and Logan Grossman. I almost said Crossman at first. Really solid second line, except for Grossman's a bit weak, but he's only 23. He's got good potential. That's a pretty solid top 6. And then their third line has Oleg Karpatsev, another younger guy, with Gustav Zgrebeshkov and Nolan Ferrelli. So that third line's also pretty solid, except for Karpatsev. And a fourth line of Grant Kang, Mark Gagne, and Landon Snyder. So, yeah, they have a good team. I think their fourth line's actually kind of solid too, except for Snyder, maybe a little bit weak. But he has dropped off a lot, I guess, since his good days. But yeah, that's a pretty solid offensive core, even though they weren't technically that great of an offensive team compared to us. Defensively, though, they have Roman Krebs and Jimmy Pierce. Why do I recognize Jimmy Pierce's name? St. Louis, I guess it's from then. Second line has, or second pairing has Reed Smith and Craig Frazee, and a top 6 pairing of Casey Volk and Jesus Horton. Even though they were a good defensive team, I'm not sold on that defensive core. Like, we have a better defensive core than them, and offensively, we might be pretty similar. Goaltending-wise, they have definitely the better overall starting goaltender in Ekblad, like I was thinking. Ekblad has been good goalie this year. Last year he wasn't good so much. His playoff numbers in his career were good in Tampa Bay quite a few years back, like a decade ago. But other than that, he hasn't been really that great of a playoff goaltender. This is the first time he's made the playoffs actually in 6 years. So, And Ron Korea. How good is this guy as a backup? Nah, not really that great. He hasn't had much success either. Depth-wise, they have Zach Wright and Andreas Bacher. So there is that, and that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of our Anchorage Ice Tigers Draft Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to round 1 against the Minnesota Wild in what might be the second last episode of the series, depending if we get eliminated or not. If not, obviously the series will keep on going until we end up either winning a Stanley Cup or losing in the playoffs. And then obviously after that, we'll have still a recap episode to go through the awesome record book and see player stats and that type of thing. So let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.